This one is a little bit different, guys. The UFC has done something that nobody thought was possible. The President of the United States standing next to Dana White on the lawn of the White House, backing the UFC on Fight Week. 30 years of Dana White and the UFC chasing mainstream legitimacy, and we are here. MMA is no longer a fringe sport. It's no longer human cockfighting. It's a political event. It's prime time. This is the biggest sporting moment in 2026, and we're betting on it. I've been covering UFC cards for years on this channel, and I've never said this before, but this one is different. The eyes of the world are on this card, and there is serious money to be made this weekend. Every fight, every angle, every bet. I have mapped out the entire card for profit, and I'm going to walk you through it with me right now. Welcome to the official UFC Financial Freedom 250 edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Show. And on this historic card, we have Ilia Topuria taking on Justin Gaethje in a main event of the evening for the UFC Lightweight Championship. Alex Pereira takes on Cyril Gane for the UFC Interim Heavyweight Championship. Sean O'Malley, the superstar, is on this card taking on a streaking Aiemann Zahabi. We have Donald Trump's favorite fighter, Derrick in a short notice matchup. He is taking on someone who is trying to trash talk their way to a title and put on a show in the octagon while he does it in 9-0 undefeated prospect Josh Hokit. We have Mauricio Ruffy, recently departed from the Fighting Nerds, taking on Michael Chandler, the epitome of the USA, in a very violent lightweight matchup. Nickal, again, the epitome of the USA. He had to be on this card. Steps in and he takes on Daukaus, who has smashed himself onto the lawn of the White House with back-to-back finishes in his second run in the UFC. We also have one of the most violent matchups to ever be made in the featherweight division, as Diego Lopes, former two-time title challenger, takes on Steve Garcia. Somebody is going to sleep in that one. And I cannot wait to talk to you about all of it, so run the motherfucking intro, and I'll see you on the other side. Boys, we are here. We are at the lawn of the White House. I got a little extra pep in my step for this one. Boys, this is honestly a fantastic card. Yes, they could have potentially put some more intriguing fights on the card. Like, a lot of these fighters are minus 500s, minus 600s. A lot of big favorites, right? We only have one fight that's a pick'em. Only one fight closely lined. Matter of fact, I guess you could argue two. But there's something about this card, boys. I am coining it UFC Financial Freedom 250 because I see 3 to 4 potential max bets on this card for me. I know it's a crazy thing. I've never ever put even 2 max bets on the same card. I've only ever done 1 max bet on a single card. I see potential for 3 and 4. I haven't made those max bets yet. Maybe I'll make some of them. Maybe I'll make all of them. But this card is looking like profit head to toe, and I can't wait to go through it all with you. As you can see, we got the adjusted lighting in the background. We got the red, the white, and the blue. Home colors of my home country, the United Kingdom, England, but also the United States of America. So, you know, we had to level up the content for this one, this historic moment. I think another reason I'm so excited for this card is because I am coming off the second best month in my sports betting history. Me and the Elite Zone won 74.4 units in the month of May 2026. There's only been one other month in the last 7 years of tracked history where we have profited more than that. That was actually last April, I believe it was, or last June, one of those months where we won 79 units. But anytime you win 74 units like we did last month, you're going to have an extra pep in your step. You're going to be super motivated for the upcoming cards, and I'm very motivated, boys. We went through a well-publicized downtrend at the start of the year. You know, the end of last year, 2025, I had one of the best gambling streaks of my entire life. I won $1.8 million from betting on MMA last year in 2025, and a lot of that was accumulated in the last couple of months of 2025, and the first couple of months of 2026 was the complete opposite. I lost loads of money. I was down 600k at one point. Of course, that means I'm still up 1.2 million if you include last year's figure as well, but this year alone, I was at one point down 600K. It was a very tough time for me, but I kept my mindset. I kept unemotional. I kept showing up here week after week after week in my office, doing my research, doing my tape study, and plugging in and sending out the bets to myself and my elite zone. And a hell of a lot of people left the elite zone during that downtrend, which is to be expected. When you go on a downtrend in sports betting and you have a tipster service, a lot of people lose. But for the people who stuck with me, they have been dramatically rewarded with a 74.4 unit month in May, and I am fully motivated to continue rewarding myself and them by crushing the next 7 months of the year. We have 7 months of the year left, boys. That means a lot of time to have a lot more 74 unit months. And my entire goal for this year is to show everybody here how to go through a brutal drawdown, survive it, but not only survive it, turn it into massive profit. I'm here to show you the realities of sports betting, as I do show you my wins, but also more importantly, every single loss, because that's the reality of the game. Forget all these fake social media handicappers that are not tracked on a third party like myself, that just show off their Rolexes and their rented cars and act like they win and never lose. That is not true, lads. And I'll never stop calling them out. I'll never stop showing you the realities of the game either. So let's continue this hot streak we have been on, boys. The second biggest hot streak of my life. And what better way to do it with UFC Financial Freedom 250. I've been watching MMA for 10 plus years. I never thought we would get to the lawn of the White House. I knew the sport would be massive. I knew it. I could just see 10 years ago when Conor McGregor was on his rise, I could see the sport would be massive, but I didn't really know it would get this far. Speaking of how long I've been betting on the sport, the mug that I'm drinking from now, read this mug. Hopefully you're going to be able to see this. It says, I suffer from PTBD, post-traumatic bet disorder. This is a $500 bet I placed on Colby Covington to win via decision against Tyron Woodley back in 2020. So long time ago, boys, $500 bet in 2020. And if you know anything about that fight, it lost in the last round. Tyron Woodley had a freak injury and I ended up losing my bet. That was looking like it was a lock. Nowadays, 6 years later, 6.5 years, I'm placing a lot more than $500 and the stakes are a lot higher. And this card right here, maybe the biggest card I've ever staked on in my life. But boys, we got no time to reminisce on how far the UFC have come. I've already done that in another video on my channel. You can go and watch that if you want a legitimate full White House UFC documentary. It's on my YouTube channel, but we are here for only one thing only, to break down these fight. So let's get into it. In the main event of the evening, we have Ilia Topuria, who is taking on Justin, the highlight Gaethje. Ilia Topuria coming into this fight with a perfect record of 17 wins and no losses. He is taking on Justin Gaethje, who has a record of 27 wins and 5 losses. Currently, they have Ilia Topuria as the -600 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Justin Gaethje sitting at +450 odds. So Ilia Topuria has the chance to go down as the greatest MMA fighter that has ever fought in MMA. And if we believe him to be what he is, then he's going to run through Justin Gaethje, right? I will say Justin Gaethje has a few tools that could trouble Topuria here. I think the calf kick is a tool that Gaethje needs to employ quite heavily. And he also has a lot of power in his hands. And we have seen Topuria hurt and wobbled a couple of times throughout his career. One time on the regional scene, he actually got dropped pretty badly. And Jai Herbert obviously dropped him with a head kick pretty badly as well and was kind of teeing off on him earlier in that fight on the feet as well. But Ilia is that good that the only hole we've ever seen in his game is him being dropped once by Jai Herbert and once on a regional scene. Of course, there's certain holes in his game. There's things that he doesn't do great, but they haven't really mattered because he's dominated almost every opponent he's ever fought. He's also had fights, though, where he's been hit clean and he's looked fine. You know, Charles Oliveira was tagging him. Max Holloway was tagging him at times, and they didn't really do anything to him. His durability seems to hold up a little bit better at 155. The only reason I say that is because Charles hit him with a brutal elbow in that fight. If you go back and watch that fight and you see that hellacious elbow that Charles hit him with, and he just brushes it off like it was absolutely nothing. You know, so I tend to feel like his durability is a little bit better on 155. Maybe he just randomly ate that shot better, and if he was at 145, he would have ate it as well. We'll never really know, but you know, usually when you move up in weight class, your durability does hold a little bit better. And I tend to think that's the case for Ilia Topuria. Ilia is one of the greatest fighters that we've ever seen. You know, he's just a much better striker than Justin Gaethje. Justin has the kicks on him. Ilia historically has never thrown a head kick, which is crazy because he could go down as the greatest MMA fighter of all time and he's never thrown a head kick. But the way he delivers damage with his boxing, fighters just don't know what to do. You know, Ilia is one of the only fighters in MMA who throws 7 and 8 punch combinations. No one really does it, right? So Ilia will throw a 1-2-3, but then he'll step into range after that 1-2-3 and then throw another 1-2-3, right? Fighters don't really do that. Fighters usually throw like a 1-2-3 and then they back off, they reset, they go again, you know, now they throw a 1-2 or they throw a 3-2, you know, or a 1-2, whatever it is. Ilia Topuria doesn't do that. Ilia Topuria throws a couple of shots and then right after throws another couple of shots. And fighters just don't know how to deal with that in MMA, honestly. In boxing, it's a common thing. And that's why his boxing is so high level. That's why his boxing is elite for MMA. Because he boxes like a real boxer. And boxers in MMA or strikers in MMA do not fight like actual boxers. And so they don't defend like actual boxers. If you put Ilia Topuria in a boxing ring, he would do well, but his striking prowess would not be nowhere near as effective because the boxers know how to defend 7 and 8 punch combinations. In MMA, these guys don't really know how to defend 7 and 8 punch combinations. They're just not used to seeing it. The distance is different. The kicks are there. The leg kicks are there. Once you throw a 3-4 punch combination, you're in range to get clinched anyway. You're also in range to get takedowns, for elbows to land. So it's not MMA fighters' fault that they don't really know how to defend those boxing extended combinations. It's just that it's usually not really worth them to learn that because they have so much other things to learn. You know, instead of learning how to shoulder roll and stop the 6th, 7th, and 8th punch, they'll just go for a clinch, right? Or they want to learn how to sprawl and defend the clinch or keep their back off the fence. So there's just different rules when it comes to MMA. Ilia, though, has managed to adapt that 7 and 8 punch boxing combination style really well with his game, with his athleticism, with his power, with his short height, with his stature. It just really works for his game. He's honestly like Mike Tyson. He's like a mini Mike Tyson of MMA. And if you've noticed, guys, I haven't even spoke about the grappling yet. So Ilia Topuria is an elite grappler for MMA. Not only is he the mini Mike Tyson of the featherweight, lightweight, maybe welterweight someday division, but he is also an elite grappler. It's extremely hard to take this guy down. Bryce Mitchell has done it. Justin Gaethje ain't going to do it. I'll tell you that now. If anything, Ilia Topuria is going to take Justin Gaethje down and dominate him on the ground. I see no reason why Ilia can't take Justin Gaethje down and submit him with an arm triangle or submit him with a rear naked choke or honestly anything. He may do it to get Justin worried about his game plan. I honestly would advise Ilia Topuria, if I was in his corner, if I was a member of his team, to shoot a takedown, to shoot a legitimate takedown, to get Justin worried about the takedown up against the fence. Corral Justin up against the fence, shoot a takedown because he's not really going to be ready for the takedown. He's going to be more, even if they game plan around the takedown, him and Trevor Whitman, he's going to be more worried about the boxing of Ilia up against the cage. Let's be real. If Justin's up against the cage, he will literally give up a takedown on purpose just so he can defend his head from the mini Mike Tyson who slumps everybody against the cage. So the takedowns up against the cage may be free. I'm not saying the control time is going to be free or Gaethje won't sprawl well. That's another conversation. We can have that. But I am going to say that the takedowns to some degree will be semi-free up against the cage. So why don't you do that once or twice at the start of the fight? You know, the first couple of minutes. One, it may end in a submission win for you or ground and pound win because you're that much better on the ground. And two, if it doesn't, it may tire Justin out. It may tire you out, but more likely it just tires Justin out from what I've seen. And three, it's going to get Justin worried about the takedowns. Then you can unload your mini Mike Tyson strike. So, that's what I would assume or advise Ilia to do. Is he going to do that? Probably not. I mean, he did take down Max Holloway once. Like, he did counter Charles Oliveira and put him in a crucifix. So there's a possibility of that. But he likes to go out there and swang and bang. So he most likely will do that. But yeah, I mean, Justin Gaethje, he's in or over his head here, in my opinion. And I've got Ilia Topuria to win this one. Another interesting thing about Ilia Topuria is that his mindset is, one of the strongest we've ever seen in MMA, is confidence. He always updates his Instagram bio and includes the win against his upcoming opponent before the fight. So he's currently 17-0, but he's already updated his Instagram bio to 18-0, manifesting for real. He spoke heavily about manifestation throughout his entire career. A little X factor of this fight is that Ilia Topuria has a brother in Alexandre Topuria, who is also in the UFC, undefeated in the UFC, looked very good since coming in to the UFC. And I'm looking at Ilia Topuria's YouTube channel. I'm watching one of his vlogs, and him and Alexandre, his brother, are breaking down Justin Gaethje specific shot for shot, selection for selection. And Alexandre Topuria seems like a very smart guy. He's very calm, composed, and he's telling his brother the exact shots that Justin likes to throw. I think these two, and I think Alexandre on his own, is actually a big reason why Ilia is the man he is. We don't hear about him much. We don't see him too much, and I don't think that's the fault of Ilia. He has shouted him out a couple of times and stuff, but I think that he's like a little X factor tool that people don't really know about. And I think people will know about him in years to come as Ilia grows his superstardom, as Alexandre starts getting more wins in the UFC as well. I think this guy is a very, very smart guy. He's almost Ilia's coach. I don't know if this is true, but I have heard that Alexandre put his career on hold because the guy didn't fight for like 5 years. And I always wondered why. I've heard through the grapevine that he put his career on hold literally to focus on his brother's career. But regardless of that, I think he's a super smart guy, and I think they're going to have a great game plan going into this one. I've also heard that the game plan they're going to have is based on Justin Gaethje's game plan. So Alexandre, Ilia, and his team sits down, watches tape of himself. They watch tape of Ilia, pretending they're Justin Gaethje and his team, and make a game plan based on what they see on Ilia's holes, the things that Ilia does wrong. They make a game plan against themselves, and then Ilia's game plan is based on that game plan that they made against themselves. It's definitely a good thing to do. I don't know if you should have fully a game plan based on a fake game plan that you made from someone else. I mean, I'm sure they have plan A, plan B, and plan C. Obviously, they don't have one game plan. That would be kind of crazy. But it just speaks to the level that these guys study the game. Not only that, speaking about study the game, but they study the body and mind as well. Have a look on the screen right here. You see some crazy brain neurotransmitting device. I mean, I don't know what the hell this device does, but from my research, it has 2 modes, one for stress, relaxation, and one for focus, mental clarity, memory. And Ilia uses it before his training sessions and after his training sessions. This guy's fully dedicated to becoming the best athlete he can become. Justin Gaethje is out there putting in the work, just all the same as he always does with Trevor Whitman. I just personally think he's in over his head here. My pick is Ilia Topuria. My pick is Ilia Topuria via knockout. And I'll say the knockout comes in round 1. Next up, we have Alex Pereira taking on Cyril Gane for the UFC Interim Heavyweight Championship. Alex Pereira coming into this fight with a record of 13 wins, 3 losses. Cyril Gane, on the other hand, 13 wins, 2 losses. Very similar record for both guys and very similar odds for both guys. Currently, they have Alex Pereira as the very, very slight -115 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Cyril Gane sitting at -105. Yeah, so this has to be the most intriguing fight on the card, boys. I mean, when I say intriguing, for me as a betting man, or for an MMA fan trying to pick a fight like an analyst, surely this is the most intriguing. What's going to happen when these two guys step in the octagon? I mean, the odds makers agree. It's the closest line fight on the entire fight card. Basically a pick'em, basically a 50-50 fight. Everyone's saying, basically, we don't know what's going to happen. And I don't have the best read either. I think early in this fight, Cyril Gane is going to have his way. I think Cyril Gane's movement, I think Cyril Gane's jab is going to be too much for Alex Pereira early. I don't think Alex will be able to keep up with the feints. I don't think Alex will be able to keep up with the volume. And I don't think Alex will be able to track him down with the movement, since Cyril is just so beautiful on the outside. And Alex isn't the type of fighter to like explode into range. Alex isn't the type of fighter like Tom Aspinall to jump in and throw a quick 1-2. And Tom Aspinall was catching Cyril Gane a lot in that fight, a lot more than I remembered and a lot more than the narrative said. But that's because he's a highly explosive athlete. Alex Pereira, on the other hand, likes to do things a little bit differently. He likes to wear you down. Yes, if you're in front of him and he hits you with that left hook, you're going down. But oftentimes sometimes he takes a while to get to his opponents. He did just say F it and just go straight towards Ankalaev in his last fight, but he usually doesn't come out that aggressive. You know, he usually takes some time to get his rhythm, to make his reads, to download his data, to start getting his counter game working, to start beating up the legs of his opponent. He has a very elite calf kick, one of the best calf kickers in MMA. And so I think that all lends itself to being that Cyril Gane's going to win the early rounds, right? The early round or two, I think Cyril Gane's going to be up. But this is a 5-round fight. And something that I haven't mentioned yet in, you know, the previous breakdown or the intro is that there is something going on called Buggate. I mean, I'm coining the term Buggate. But what I mean by that is this fight, boys, these fights, right? This event is outdoors. I don't know if the UFC have ever held an outdoor event, maybe once upon a time back in the day, but they don't do it, right? The reason they don't hold events outdoors because shit can go wrong. It can rain, can be super windy, it can be really humid. You don't have control over the temperature. You don't have control over the environment. And something that a lot of people are saying is that during this time in, you know, the start of summer in Washington, D.C., on the lawn of the White House, where they're holding the event, it's going to be super humid at this time. And with all the lights going on and the humidity, there's going to be a lot of bugs flying about. And apparently Dana White's actually spoke about that himself as well. I haven't looked into it, but apparently that's a worry for the UFC. I mean, in my eyes, surely they're going to be able to deal with the bug situation. It's 2026. They've been planning this for a while. One of the biggest sporting companies in the world. You're really going to get effed up by some bugs? Regardless of the bug situation, the humidity situation is pretty real, right? I don't know if they're going to have some temperature-controlled octagon, some crazy Chinese software, some hardware. I don't know whether they're going to have, you know, big air conditioners that still work outside. Like, there's obviously things they can do if they really want. Most likely, they're not going to do that, though, right? I know Alex Pereira himself has spoke about his fighter being later on in the card, or his fight being late on in the card, meaning that it's going to be a lot cooler. But these are still things to think about, you know? And as I was thinking of this fight, I was like, you know, if it's humid and these fighters are sweating more than usual, maybe they're getting a little bit more tired than usual, is Cyril Gane going to still be using his beautiful footwork in rounds 4 and 5? Is he going to start to slow down a little bit soon? It's just another piece of the random puzzle that we have to include if we're speaking about an outdoor event for the first time in history. We have to think about it, right? I'm not saying spend so much time on it, but don't just completely ignore it because you might miss something. But stylistically, going back to the stylistics, I do think that Alex Pereira will start to get his game going as we go later on in the fight. You know, when we go round 3, 4, I do expect the calf kicks to start adding up. I do expect Alex to start landing a little bit more. And Alex is the type of guy that always believes he can win a fight. You know, he's down on the cards to Ankalaev. He doesn't care. He's still walking forward trying to get it done. He's down on the cards to Israel Adesanya. He doesn't care. He still gets a knockout in round 5. He's down on the cards to Khalil Roundtree. He doesn't care. He still walks him down and gets a knockout in round 4. So the guy has insane will to win, insane belief in himself, and he's come back many, many times in his UFC MMA career. He knows he can do it. Cyril Gane, on the other hand, when things start to go not his way, he hasn't looked good, guys. He has not looked good. He has fought for the heavyweight championship now multiple times. He fought Francis Ngannou in 2022. He was up 2 rounds to none, and then he proceeded to get grappled in the final 3 rounds from someone who had shown 0 grappling in his entire career before that. Francis Ngannou, the pure striker. Yes, he can take people down now. Back then in 2022, that was not his game. It was a bad look for Cyril Gane to completely drop the ball. Not only that, but in round 5, he had the fight won. He was on top of Francis Ngannou, and inexplicitly he rolls for a heel hook or something happens. Still to this day, that is debated whether Cyril Gane rolled for a heel hook or he just got swept by Francis Ngannou. I don't know. Either one is bad in round 5, and he lost himself for the title because of that poor decision or that poor skill set, right? The bad decision if he rolled for a heel hook, or the poor skill set if he got swept by Ngannou. He then fought John Jones a year later for the heavyweight title, and he got choked out in 2 minutes. Look, it's John Jones. We're not going to have a go at him for that. By the end of the day, choked out in 2 minutes is just not the best thing, right? Then he fought Tom Aspinall for the heavyweight championship. Again, 3rd go at heavyweight championship. He was looking good, but he did eye poke Tom Aspinall pretty badly. You know, he did do that. So I'm not going to hold that one against him. John Jones one is hard to hold against him, but at the same time, like 2 minutes, a very fast tap, like gave his neck instantly. Like you can't fight out a little bit better. 2 minutes. John Jones had been out for years. Like, I don't know, man. I just feel like Cyril Gane has dropped the ball many times. When the going gets tough, he hasn't looked good. In these big title fights, he's dropped the ball many times. Yes, they're against really good fighters, but can we trust him? Can we trust him at pick'em, at minus money, right? Against someone who has only done the opposite in these title fights. He's rose above the hard challenges. When the going has got tough against Israel Adesanya and Khalil Rountree, he rose above it. He came back from defeat and he won those fights. Cyril Gane was winning the fight against Francis Ngannou and then he lost it. So I don't know. It's big fight feel. Mentality is a massive thing. You know, we've seen time and time again, these fighters from MMA Factory in France make some bad mistakes, semi-bad fight IQ. I don't know whether we can trust Cyril Gane here. Stylistically, I think he's going to win the fight, though. Stylistically, I have Cyril Gane to out-jab and out-volume and out-feint Alex Pereira. I really do. It's just I'm having a tough time deciding whether I want to trust him with my money. Ultimately, I'm going to pick him here, boys. My official prediction is going to be Cyril Gane wins the fight via decision. Semi-uneventful decision as well. And I do think he's durable as well. And I think he's really good at avoiding the big shot. I just don't know whether I trust him in round 4 and round 5 when his leg is hurting, when Alex has made his reads. Alex is a lifelong kickboxer. He understands range. He understands distance management. And so does Cyril Gane. But you know, I don't think Cyril Gane's going to employ the Magomed Ankalaev strategy where Magomed was pressuring him and making him react and, you know, making him out. He was out feinting him. I think Cyril Gane's going to be on a back foot, and I don't know whether necessarily that plays into his advantage or not. I mean, obviously early it will, but yeah, it's a very good fight, boys. I'm going to do more tape study on this one. I'm going to be honest with you guys now. I may even end up with a bet on this fight. Maybe I'll play the over. Funnily enough, Bet Online, which is usually the first, you know, MMA bookie that puts out MMA lines, they don't have props out for this fight, but so many other bookies have props out for the entire fight card already. I guess that's how big of a fight card it is. So I can see the over and under is set at 2.5 rounds right now. So the over 2.5 rounds minus 125, under 2.5 rounds minus 105. The fight goes to decision is plus 210. So, you know, those are the bets that I would look at. I don't think Alex is going to get him out there early. I kind of feel like the one goes late. Even if Alex does win, I think it's going to be via knockout late. And if Cyril Gane wins, I think it's going to be late or probably via decision, you know? So yeah, right now I pick Cyril Gane to win this fight as my official prediction via decision.
Boys, this show is brought to you by myself. I fund the show. I fund the editing. I fund everything that goes into the show. And the way I do that is by shouting out my betting service every single episode. I'm doing something super special on this episode. Because it's UFC Financial Freedom 250, because it's a card that I see potential 3 to 4 max bets on one card, because it's a card that I truly believe to be one of the best cards the UFC has ever put on in terms of betting profits that we can make, and it's a historic card, I'm doing a historic offer. The first 250 people to celebrate UFC Freedom 250 that sign up on the link down below, the link in the comments section, are going to get $100 off a monthly membership. That's membership to my elite zone, my private betting community, where you get my long shot parlays for this card, my long shot prop bets, every single bet that I personally place, all my max bets, everything for not only this card, but the entire 30 days. You get $100 discount, but it's only for the first 250 people. There's going to be more than 20,000 people that watch this show, boys. So be fast. If you're watching it now and you're one of the early ones, then you're lucky. All you need to do is go to my website, sublaunch.com/lucrative MMA. You click the elite monthly membership and the coupon code you need to use is freedom. If you don't want to do all that, you can just check the pinned comment down below. Click that link. It'll take you directly to the checkout page. Most weeks I go over what my service is, the numbers and the actual raw, hard, cold stats behind my service. So I'm not going to go too in-depth on it today, boys. I'm really excited for this video. I just want to continue with the show. But what I will say is all of my bets are third-party tracked, right, on an independent website where I cannot change the bets after they have taken place. Nobody else does this because everybody's got something to hide. I do this because I don't want to hide any of my numbers. I'm the most transparent in the game, and my numbers are some of the best numbers you will ever see in professional sports betting history. Almost nobody has numbers tracked independently on par with mine. We are literally competing and surpassing the best sports bettors that are alive on this planet today. I'm not saying that for hyperbole. I'm not overrating the numbers. Those are the actual numbers. I ain't gonna say any more, boys. The link is down in the pinned comment if you want that. or just go to the website, use the coupon code FREEDOM only for an elite monthly membership. You're welcome. Let's cash it. Let's get on with the show.
Next up on the card, we have Sean O'Malley taking on Aiemann Zahabi. Sean O'Malley coming into this fight with a record of 19 wins, 3 losses. Aiemann Zahabi, on the other hand, 14 wins, 2 losses. Sean O'Malley currently the minus 400 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Aiemann Zahabi sitting at plus 330. Yeah, so when this fight was announced, I thought that Aiemann Zahabi might not be as big of an underdog as he is, because he's gone on a crazy win streak, beating high-level fighters as underdogs consistently. You know, it all started when he beat Arichi Lang. He knocked him out, and then that was a little bit surprising to see a knockout there. And then he fought Javid Basharat, and this is kind of where his career took off for real. You know, he was a plus 600 underdog, and he beat Javid Basharat. Then he got thrown to like the veterans of the bantamweight division. They gave him Pedro Munoz, and he won. Then they gave him Jose Aldo. He won as a plus 160 underdog. And then they gave him Marlon Vera, and he won as well. So I thought, you know, back-to-back wins over Pedro Munoz, Marlon Vera, Jose Aldo. I didn't think he'd be like plus 300 there. I thought maybe they'd make Sean O'Malley minus 220 or something like that, but they've made it minus 400. Honestly, boys, I agree with it. And I think they're smart. You know, I think they're smart with this decision, because Sean O'Malley, to me, is not a Marlon Vera. He's not a Jose Aldo, and he's not a Pedro Munoz. He is a guy who's going to stay on the outside. Those guys like to come forward. Those guys like to swing in the pocket. Those guys like to box. Sean O'Malley is a MMA striker in every sense of the word. He's a full kickboxer. He's extremely athletic, very mobile, very flexible. He's very good with his footwork. He stays on the outside. He counters you. He outpoints you. He's great distance control, great distance management, range control. And the fighters that Aiemann has beat do not have that. Outside of Javid Basharat, but he's many levels below Sean O'Malley. And that Javid Basharat fight, arguably Aiemann lost that. It was a very close fight. Now, it was a unanimous decision win to Javid, but it was very close, right? Like, it was a close fight. And I do think that was because that was a terrible fight, by the way. Like, no one really did anything. Javid specifically was acting very strange in that fight. But I do think that the range control and the distance management of Javid Basharat made it be a awkward fight, made it so that Zahabi couldn't land that much. And I think that's what we're getting in Sean O'Malley. He's going to make it so that Zahabi can't land that much, but he's just going to be way faster than Zahabi, way better at countering, way better at distance control, too much experience. And I think he's going to land big time on Aiemann Zahabi. I wouldn't even be surprised if he gets a knockout on Aiemann Zahabi here. Maybe I'm doubting Aiemann Zahabi yet again, but guess what? I've never bet against him. I know a lot of people have been betting against Aiemann Zahabi consistently throughout his career. I've never done that. I haven't bet against Aiemann Zahabi. I respect his skill set. I respect his understanding of striking to some degree, you know, when he's not fighting a guy on the level of Sean O'Malley. Zahabi works himself into the fight, you know. He makes pretty good reads. He starts to pick up the pace as the fight goes on. He starts to understand what you're going to do. I respect all of those things, but Sean O'Malley does all of those things as well, and he does them a little bit better, and he's a little bit faster, and he's a little bit more experienced, and he's fought way better fighters. I mean, at the end of the day, Sean's been in there and beat guys like Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling, you know, and he's been in there with Marab. I mean, yes, Zahabi's fought some good guys, but a lot of them were older. A lot of them were over the hill, and a lot of them he's barely squeaking by, like Javid Basharat and Jose Aldo and Marlon Vera. You know, he's barely squeaking by these guys. So for me, this is a Sean O'Malley spot. I'm actually going to pick Sean O'Malley via knockout as well. It's been a while since we've seen the Sean O'Malley knockout. You know, he's been fighting the best of the best. It's not easy to get a knockout. Obviously, he did get a knockout against Aljo, you know, to win the title, but it's been a while since we've really seen Sean O'Malley get a knockout. I think he gets one here. Look, maybe it's a knockdown. It doesn't turn into a knockout, but I just feel like style-wise, the way they fight, I do think Sean O'Malley's going to tag him with a straight shot down the middle. Maybe it's a knee up the middle, or maybe it's a beautiful 1-2 pinpoint strike. I'll pick Sean O'Malley via knockout as my official prediction. Next up on the card, we have Derrick Lewis taking on Josh Hokit. We're going to have some fun with this one, boys. Derrick Lewis coming into this fight with a record of 29 wins, 13 losses. Josh Hokit, on the other hand, 9 wins and no losses. He's an undefeated prospect. Currently, they have Josh Hokit as the big favorite, minus 315, with the underdog price tag on Derrick Lewis sitting at plus 265 odds. Yeah, so I mean, like every Derrick Lewis fight, he's knockout or bust. If he doesn't hit you with that crazy jumping fat switch kick thing he does, or a massive uppercut, or a big overhand like he did Talison, which he can still do, or a flying knee like Marcos Rogerio de Lima found out. I mean, he's got some tools in his toolbox. I'm saying if he doesn't do that, he do that and that. Like, he's got a few things. If he doesn't hit you with those 4 moves that I've just said, the flying knee, the overhand, the uppercut, or the switch kick, you're sweet. You know, like he ain't hitting these 1, 2, 3 to the body. Like he ain't doing these beautiful calf kicks, break you down, nice little hook to the head. No, like that's not happening. If you avoid those 4 shots, then you're going to win. I have to pick Hokit to avoid those 4 shots, boys. The interesting thing about this fight is that Josh Hokit, he's coming from that wrestling ilk. He's a showman. He's going to be in the biggest event of his career and of the UFC's long, illustrious career. It's the biggest event they've ever put on. He's going to want to put on a show like he always does. I don't think he's going to go out there and not give Derrick Lewis a chance to knock him out. I think he's probably going to swing with Derrick Lewis and probably give him a chance to knock him out. The caveat is that he might wrestle Derrick Lewis, but if he wrestles Derrick Lewis, I think it's going to be aggressive wrestling pace, and I think he's going to try and ground and pound him, smash him from top position. I don't think he's going to be a wrestling pace where like he takes him down, he stays safe, he's trying to burn clock, he's getting Derrick tired. I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be kind of insane. Like he'll take him down, maybe stand up, land massive elbows, big jump shots from the top position, huge ground and pound, like shouting, putting the middle finger in his face as he's elbowing him from mount. Like I think it's going to be very intense, aggressive, and that obviously gives Derrick a chance to stand up. So basically what I'm trying to say, boys, is that Josh Hokit's going to go out there to put on a show, and if you put on a show against Derrick, you're giving him the best chance, right? You're giving him the best chance. I have no doubt in my mind that if Josh Hokit wanted to, he could cruise to a round 2 finish where he takes Derrick down, stays on top of him, very boring. Derrick explodes up once, he clinches Derrick up against the cage, the round ends, he takes him down in round 2, Derrick Lewis is tired, he gets a crucifix finish, or he gets a ground and pound from top position. Like he can do that. I don't think he's going to do that. He's probably going to go out there and just look for the KO early. And if he doesn't get it, he's probably going to take him down and try and dominate him from top position. So yeah, there's a bit of a chance for Derrick Lewis. The caveat there is that Josh Hokit is going to give him a chance, but I can't back Derrick Lewis. He is done at this point, in my opinion. He's been done for many, many years. You know, I bet against Derrick Lewis many times. I bet on Taliesin Teixeira against him. Turned out to be idiotic, but that's what I think of Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis these days doesn't have the gas he used to, and he didn't even have great gas back in the day. He quits now if the going gets really tough, and I think Josh Hokit is the worst style matchup for him in that his pace is insane. Derrick will not be able to keep up the pace that Josh Hokit can keep, and so Josh Hokit is going to finish Derrick Lewis probably via TKO, probably in round 1 or 2. Something I found on my research has nothing to do with the fight, but I watched one of the most weird videos ever on Josh Hokit's YouTube channel where he's walking down Albuquerque interviewing people just screaming, "What's up, dog?" and other random stuff.
Hey, hello, can you hear me? Hey, this is the fucking Down Vato, homie. Hey, if the Incredible Hulk was here right now, what would you say, dog?
I don't speak English, bro. I don't speak English like
What
that.
would you say, dog?
English, bro.
Okay, dog, he doesn't speak English, dog. He got scared on me. I got no highness. Anybody want to be in the YouTube? Come on, don't be shy. Come on, dog.
Like Josh Hokit is a wild card, man. Like this guy is a bit of a madman. When I look at it, it's a little bit cringy. I laugh though. I feel like everyone's got their place in MMA. I don't hate on nobody. It's very rare that I genuinely dislike someone. I know a lot of people hate Josh Hokit. A lot of people hate these fighters. Like, this fighter's a scumbag. And I'm like, boys, at the end of the day, man, everyone has their place. Josh Hokit, yeah, he seems like a bit of a cringe, but it's funny. It's funny. It's weird. Like when I watched that video, I can't say I laughed. It's a bit weird, but if you actually think about it, it's kind of funny, you know? So Josh Hokit is a madman. Walking down in Albuquerque, screaming "What's up, dog?" to everyone. Go and watch the video if you want to be weirded out or whatnot. But I do think he's going to win the fight. Ultimate prediction, Josh Hokit via knockout. Damn, round 1. After putting the middle finger up at least twice.
Next up in the lightweight division, we have Mauricio Ruffy taking on Michael Chandler. Ruffy coming into this fight with a record of 13 wins, 2 losses. Michael Chandler coming into this fight, 23 wins and 10 losses. Currently, they have Mauricio Ruffy as a minus 600 favorite, the joint biggest on this fight card, with the underdog price tag on Michael Chandler sitting at plus 450, also the joint biggest on this fight card. You know what's crazy, boys? Michael Chandler has been in the UFC for 5 years now. Half a decade Michael Chandler has been in the UFC. I'm from the era where we was waiting for Michael Chandler to come to the UFC. Michael was never a UFC fighter. He was a Bellator fighter. He was one of the top fighters outside of the UFC. It's just crazy when I look back and find out that he's been in the UFC for 5 years, you know, not find out, but when I look at his record, then I see his debut to Dan Hooker was 2021 when he knocked Dan Hooker out inside of a couple of minutes. It's just crazy, you know. Not only is that crazy, but when I see in the same year, he fought Charles Oliveira for the belt, and I bet on him as a plus 110 underdog. And I remember that fight vividly because he knocked Charles down in round 1. It was looking like he was going to get the round 1 knockout, and then obviously he succumbed to a round 2 knockout himself. That was 5 years ago. I'm getting old, boys. We're all getting old. Savor the moment. Tell your family and loved ones that you love them. Do what you want to do. F what anybody else says. Don't be embarrassed of your little quirks. Don't be embarrassed of what you want to do in life, the way you speak, the career path you want to take. Don't do stuff for your family or your friends or anything like that. Do stuff for yourself, boys. We're all going to die one day, and it's going to mean absolutely nothing. So enjoy the ride. I don't know why I went on a motivational speech right there. I don't know why it just came to me, but yeah, it's been a long time since Michael Chandler has been in the UFC, but getting back to the fight, the reality of the situation is that Michael Chandler has been here for 5 years and he has 2 wins. And that win is one on his debut. Inside 2 minutes, he knocked out Dan Hooker. And the other win is Tony Ferguson, a guy who lost about 8 fights in a row, including Michael Chandler, in a fight where Tony won the first round, arguably dropped Michael Chandler. It was a very weird stumble/drop type situation. And I don't even necessarily think Chandler looked that amazing in that fight. He got some top control and then he knocked him out with a kick to the face. Outside of that, he's lost every single fight. Now, has he competed in those fights? Some of them, he's definitely competed in them. He didn't really compete in the last Charles Oliveira fight. He didn't compete at all, and the worst performance of his career in the UFC was in his very last fight against Paddy Pimblett. All the other fights before that he competed, he was defeating, he was beating up, he was ragdolling Dustin Poirier till he got choked out in round 3. He was going to war with Justin Gaethje where he was losing, but it was a close fight. He was having big shots on Justin Gaethje. And as I mentioned, he almost knocked out Charles Oliveira. But it's the last 2 fights that I look at and say, damn, I think Chandler's losing it. The way he got beat by Charles Oliveira and Paddy Pimblett, the way he got grappled by Charles Oliveira, and we know he can do that to many men now, as he has done to Max Holloway recently, but I don't think he looked good in that fight. He didn't really have any moments apart from, look, he did have a few moments here and there through the fight, but for the most part, he didn't look good in that fight, right? He did not look good. And that's why I picked Paddy Pimblett in his next fight to beat him. And Paddy ran through him, dominated him, made him look like a bit of a bum, made him look washed up, I should say. And now he takes on Mauricio Ruffy. If we was getting Chandler 5 years ago, you got to take Chandler here. You have to take Chandler. But we're getting Chandler in 2026. We're getting Chandler at 40 years of age. We're getting Chandler who has taken more than 1 year off from his last fight, where he looked career worst against a fighter who isn't to the level of fighters he's fought before that and looked much better than. Paddy Pimblett is not on the same level as Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, as Dustin Poirier. He is not. He's one level below them. And Michael Chandler competed against them much better than he competed against Paddy Pimblett. You could say it's a style matchup. I personally don't think so. I don't even think Paddy has a bad style for Chandler. In fact, I think Chandler has a decent style to beat Paddy, prime for prime. I don't think the issue was Paddy Pimblett was there in front of him that day. I think the issue is that Michael Chandler was washed that day. And that day was over a year ago, lads. So I think Michael Chandler is even more washed now. He has been holding out, waiting for a Conor McGregor fight for many years, and he wasn't able to get it. He wasted some time of the end of his prime before he was really washed up, but now I think he's done, honestly. Look, I think he has some wrestling upside here. I think he has some grappling upside. He's the more explosive wrestler. He's the much better wrestler. He's the better grappler in general. But I cannot see Michael Chandler putting together a 15-minute grappling performance. And I honestly can't see Michael Chandler getting into dominant positions enough to finish Mauricio Ruffy. And if he doesn't do that, they're going to spend some time on the feet. If they spend long enough on the feet, make no mistake about it, Mauricio Ruffy is going to find that chin, lads. He is going to start to get his timing and reads, and he is going to find that chin multiple times. I see a brutal knockout for Mauricio Ruffy in this one. Ruffy is an elite striker. Yes, he lost against Benoit Saint-Denis, but we saw what he did to Rafael Fiziev, who is another elite striker in the division, in his very next fight. So if you stand with him, he'll do what he did to Fiziev. He'll do what he did to Bobby Green. He'll do what he did to James Lontop in a fight that everybody gives him shit about. But let's be real. He almost knocked out James Lontop 2 or 3 times in that fight. He had brutal shots landed, and James Lontop done well, survived the shots, and lost a clear decision, although he was pouring the volume on at times. Ruffy was tired from beating his ass. I think if you stay on the feet with this guy, you're getting knocked out. It's as simple as that. Yes, he can be knocked out. We know UFC fighter Manuel Souza knocked him out back in the day when they was both not signed to the UFC. It can happen, but that was many years ago. I don't think Michael Chandler has the striking skill set to land those shots. Can he explode and land a shot on him? Yes. Is it going to turn into a knockdown or a wobble? Maybe. Is it going to turn into a knockout? Highly unlikely. Outside of that, he's getting smoked on the feet. Ruffy's too slick, too clean, too well schooled in range control, distance management, too fast, too youthful, too athletic, too flexible, too loose, too smooth, too swift. He's all of that stuff. He's all of that stuff, boys. So yeah, I mean, you see where I'm heading with this one. I'm picking the minus 600 favorite. I'm picking Mauricio Ruffy via knockout. A couple of narrative-based things that I always like to touch on near the end or middle of my breakdowns because I want to give you guys the most information possible. I want to give you guys information that, like I'm trying to give you the most important information possible and fit it, condense it into a 5 to 10 minute breakdown per fight, not go on for 30, 40, 50 minutes. Like I can break this fight down for an hour. Of course, I could speak technically about each individual fighter and how they fight and how the styles match up. Try to give you the most important information and the most entertaining information as well, and some cool things that I think most people wouldn't have seen or wouldn't have known. I'm trying to give you the full package in a content piece that I'm condensing. And something I do want to mention to you guys is that Mauricio Ruffy has left the Fighting Nerds now. Most of you will know that. He did a lot of training with Volkanovski. And something that people might not know is that I have been listening to interviews of him. And he said that since he met Volkanovski, he has done wrestling every single day. He has wrestled every single day. Right, so he learned a lot from Volk. I guess Volk gave him the word, and he lost against Benoit Saint Denis. We know that from wrestling, from grappling. I want to cast your mind back to that fight a little bit, because at the end of the day, I do think Chandler has to wrestle to win here. I do, right? So why don't we see if he can wrestle to win based on our analysis, based on their previous fights. We know Michael Chandler's a good wrestler. Go and look what he did to Dustin Poirier. I watched that fight in preparation for this one. He ragdolled him for about 12 minutes and then he tired out and got choked out. Yes, it was back and forth between those 12 minutes at times, but honestly, most of it, Michael Chandler was just ragdolling it. You know, he was winning. It was definitely a bit of a war, but he was clearly winning. And then in round 3, he got tired, right? That was many years ago, by the way. So he does have wrestling skill set. In the BSD fight, Ruffy, a lot of people don't remember that fight correctly. Ruffy reversed Benoit Saint Denis. Ruffy counter-grappled Benoit Saint Denis. Ended up on top at one point. Mauricio Ruffy has some slick grappling in his toolbox. I feel like he did not show up on that day. If Mauricio Ruffy faces Benoit Saint Denis again, I will bet Mauricio Ruffy as an underdog. And I believe I will cash that bet. I think it was a poor performance from Mauricio. I don't think it's the true skill set of both fighters. And I think he has improved since then. And I think he'll showcase some of these improvements against Michael Chandler this weekend, because I wholeheartedly believe that Michael will wrestle. I know Michael's a showman, just like Josh Hokit. So maybe he goes out there and swangs and bangs. But you can still be a showman and wrestle if you have the explosivity, athleticism, and overhand into takedown prowess that Michael Chandler has. So I think Chandler will wrestle. I think he'll have success for about a minute or two. I think Ruffy will stuff, or maybe even around, maybe in some universe around. But I think at some point Ruffy will stuff the takedowns. At some point Ruffy will sprawl. At some point Michael Chandler will get tired. At some point the tides will turn. At some point Mauricio Ruffy will land the kill shot. Headshot. Dead. My prediction is Mauricio Ruffy wins this fight via knockout in round 1. Next up on the card, we have Bo Nickal taking on Kyle Daukaus. Bo Nickal coming into this fight with a record of 8 wins, 1 loss. Kyle Daukaus, 17 wins, 4 losses. Currently, to have Bo Nickal as a big favorite, minus 320 odds for him, with the underdog price tag on Kyle Daukaus sitting at plus 270. Yeah, so this is an interesting fight, boys. This is a fight, one of the only fights on the card that I really want to do more tape study on. And the reason is because when I was watching it, I couldn't really get a read on who has big advantages, where the big differences in both fighters are. Like, obviously, Bo Nickal has a big wrestling advantage here. That's clear. Bo Nickal has a big wrestling advantage against anyone he fights. But I don't know if he's going to implement it for 3 rounds, because his style has been different depending on who he has fought. You know, he did not fight the same way in his early days that he fought against Reina de Ridder, or even his last fight. He seems to have been improving and growing on the job, you know, so you never know really what you're going to get with Bo. He might come out here and say, I'm just going to show my striking because I'm just a much better striker. He might not want to deal with the front choke game of Kyle Daukaus, you know, on the takedown attempts. Obviously, there's different takedowns he can go to, but maybe he doesn't want to deal with the clinch game, so maybe he doesn't get close enough for a lot of those takedowns as well. Maybe he doesn't want to deal with the clinch game because of how he got butchered in the clinch by RDR. You know, maybe he's not comfortable there. I mean, when you have a fighter who is so new to MMA, Bo's been training MMA for like 5 years or something like that, and who's growing on the job, who every fight is showing something different, whether it's good or bad. You know, it was good in every fight outside of the Ridder fight. He showed a lot of different things there. Most of them negative, you know, not dealing with adversity well. I'm not going to say weak to the body, but First time he got stopped. First time he got knocked out. First time he seemed to gas out. First time he wasn't having 100% his way with the grappling. So he showed a lot of negative things there. I guess they're negatives for his style. So I just feel like every Bo fight, we're kind of guessing a little bit, right? Doesn't mean that we can't do it. Doesn't mean there's not value on the line. But I just want to preface the breakdown by saying I don't really know what Bo's going to come in here looking like. I can only guess there's more volatility in this fight than some others. But I also want to dig deep on tape. You know, I haven't gone as deep as I want to on this fight. And I do that every single fight. You know, I always, if I have anything specific to look for, I'll often go back and watch a fight or two as I'm just chilling, just to watch a couple of things as my thoughts have marinated over the week, you know. So I expect my, breakdown to be a little bit different or maybe updated as the fight comes. But for now, I can confidently say that Bo has a big wrestling advantage. I can confidently say that Carl Daukaus is not going to be taking down Bo Nickal, as famous last words, right? But yeah, he's not going to be taking down Bo Nickal and grappling him there. So basically, Carl Daukaus has to stand on the feet here, where I think Bo can stand on the feet or get it to the ground. And then if Carl Daukaus does stand on the feet, how do we see that playing out? Well, like I said, I think Bo Nickal in his last fight had shown improvements in his striking. I think that's clear to see in his footwork. Obviously finished it off with a very good high kick. He hadn't done that before in MMA. On the feet, I have to give a slight advantage to Carl Daukaus. I just feel like he's had more reps on the feet. He's shown more on the feet. He's got way more experience. He's the taller man here. He has the same reach advantage, so he'll be able to match the long range weapons and, the kicks and the long jab and stuff that Bo Nickal tries to employ. I think he's a better boxer as well. Bo Nickal definitely has some good kicks, but I do think that Carl Daukaus is the better boxer. But it's close. On the feet, it's not like some major advantage to Carl Daukaus or anything like that. And Bo is clearly improving on the feet. And I'm not sure Carl Daukaus is improving on the feet. I know he's looked good since he came back to the UFC, got a knockout with the hands in his first fight back against Michel Pereira as a decent-sized underdog. But if you go back and watch the fights that got him back into the UFC, so the 3 or 4 fight win streak he went on pre-UFC, or pre-second stint in the UFC, because if you don't know, Carl Daukaus was once in the UFC. He got cut after losing a good few fights, and then they brought him back. During the time of his first and second UFC stint, he fought multiple times on the regional scene in the organization CFFC. He became CFFC champion, CFFC champion, and then the UFC signed him again, right? And in those CFFC fights, Cage Fury Fighting Championship fights, I don't think he looked great. He got dropped a lot. He got wobbled. His durability did not look good. His durability didn't look good. I don't think he looked that good in those fights. He got the win. He's a dog. He dogged it out. He finished a couple of these guys, but I don't think they was all that high level, and they were giving him real problems, So I don't know how much he's actually improved after, beating his last 2 opponents within 50 seconds, both of them. GM3 choked out in 50 seconds, and Michel Pereira landed a knockout in 43. So it's like, I don't actually know how much this guy's improved, if any, since his first UFC run. I think he has a bit, but I just feel like the guy's got a lot of holes, and I don't think he's very durable. And I could easily see Bo Nickal hurting him with a head kick, with an overhand. Bo is explosive and he can switch stances, and, he's a little bit tricky in the way he strikes and fights because he's quite new to it. He's got his own unique style to some degree. And I kind of feel like he's got a massive durability advantage here. We haven't really seen Bo tested and take heavy shots to the face, let's be real. But we have seen Carl Daukaus do that, and he's been crumbled multiple times. He got finished by Eric Anders. He got knocked out by Roman Dolidze. I could easily see Bo Nickal hurting him in this fight. And it's a little bit harder for me to see Carl Daukaus hurting him. I can see it, but it's just a little bit harder because there's more unknowns on Bo Nickal's side. Bo does seem tough. He's a tough, durable, elite wrestler. Like, I don't really see Carl Daukaus knocking him out, It can happen, but I think the one with shaky durability here is Carl Daukaus. And then outside of that, Bo has the wrestling advantage. Carl's a much better submission grappler, but I think Bo is good enough to not get manhandled on the floor. He's good enough to not get submitted, in my opinion, unless he's hurt. I think he can take Carl down and stay in side control or stay in his guard and stay safe. I genuinely believe that. Bo has been submission grappling for a long time now. Bo has been training jiu-jitsu for many, many years now. And he did well when he had to grapple with RDR on the floor. Like, he didn't look bad. He jumped guillotine and lost position. That was bad fight IQ, but it's not like he looked terrible submission grappler. I mean, RDR was never close to submitting him or anything like that. They didn't grapple for too long, but still, I saw a decent amount there to tell me that Bo's competent on the ground, and I know he's been training a lot. And look, he's tapped out a lot of guys in MMA, right? They're not the highest level fighters, but he's still got got multiple submissions in MMA, and I think he's getting better and better. And I honestly feel like, he's got a perfect base to start. Elite wrestler moving into jiu-jitsu. If they really dedicate their time to jiu-jitsu, they can become really good really fast. And that's kind of how I see Bo Nickal. I honestly think he's really good at grappling. Look, he's not the best ever, but I think he's pretty good, above average for the division, and I think he's going to continue to improve. Boys, going a bit long on this one, so I'm going to say Bo Nickal is my pick. I don't know if he's going to finish. I think I'm going to lean decision in this one. I mean, his last fight, he got a brutal head kick KO, but 2 minutes more and that fight goes to decision. In his Paul Craig fight, it was pretty tentative. He didn't want to mess around with the jiu-jitsu of Paul Craig, which I don't think necessarily was a good decision because I feel like he was arguably losing that fight. And if different judges were there, they could have scored it for Paul Craig. So I don't think that was great, but I understand what he was doing. But I feel like when you realize the margins were so close, you probably should have shot a takedown, but that's neither here or there. Outside of that, yes, he's submitting these guys. I don't think he's going to submit Kyle Daukaus. I don't think he's on that level yet. And so it begs the question, is he going to knock him out? Probably not. Like, I'd lean that Kyle survives, So, yeah, I'm going to pick Bo Nickal to win this fight via decision as my official prediction. Next up on the card, we have Diego Lopes taking on Steve Garcia in the most fun, violent, exciting fight on the entire card. We have Diego Lopes coming into this fight with a record of 27 wins, 8 losses. Steve Garcia, on the other hand, 19 wins, 5 losses. Diego Lopes coming into this fight as the minus 160 favorite, currently with the underdog price tag on Steve Garcia sitting at plus 140. This is violence personified. What a fantastic fight. One of the best fights the UFC can put on in the entire organization, and it happens to be on this card, and it's opening up the White House card. I know where they're making this fight the first fight of the night, and not the third or fourth, because this fight is going to be fireworks, it's going to be violent. The over-under is set at 1.5 rounds, and I completely agree with that one. I think, both fighters usually just go balls to the wall and try and knock their opponent out. The big issue in this one is that someone has a massive durability advantage, and that's Diego Lopes. So if they do go out there and the over 1.5 rounds, or the fight being set at 1.5 instead of 2.5 is correct, and it is going to be violent early, I have to lean to the guy who is way more durable, and that's Diego Lopes. Steve Garcia is on an amazing run. He's on an amazing run, but people may have forgotten how many times he has been hurt on that run, how many times he has been rocked, dropped, and wobbled on that run, because it's alarming. Now, I will say that Garcia, in his last fight against David Onama, it was weird. Like, it was kind of like a feeling out process. No one was really doing anything, and then he landed a knockout, but Onama's a little bit chinny himself. The fight before that against Calvin Kattar, he employed a different style. He didn't really go out there and brawl with Calvin Kattar. Now, he still hurt Calvin Kattar, and he showed that he's carried his power throughout all 3 rounds as well, but he didn't just go out there and brawl with him like he did the Sungwoo Choi or Carl Nelson or Melquez El Costa after round 1 when he got, he was able to avoid the body lock. He actually stood there and, used some footwork. He used a lot of volume. He was fainting in that fight. So I think he showed a bit of improvement in that fight. Calvin Kattar seemed very washed in that fight as well. I think Calvin Kattar is well and truly done. After watching that fight, honestly, now he's on a 5-fight losing streak. He'll probably be cut from the UFC at some point if he doesn't win his next fight. He's going on a tie to a Vasa Tony Ferguson type run at the moment. So I'm not going to, say Steve is the best fighter in the world because of that fight, but he definitely showed me some new improved things, which it's always good to see, right? But Steve, at the end of the day, is always going to be privy to a brawl. He's always going to be someone who will swing if you bring the fight to him. And Diego Lopes is going to bring the fight to him. I find it hard to see the fight playing out any other way than these guys are going to swing at some point. It's going to be big power punches coming from both fighters, and they're going to brawl. Maybe Steve tries to stay on the outside. I don't think Diego Lopes is going to stay on the outside. I kind of feel like Diego Lopes has let himself down in his last fight against Alexander Volkanovski. He was too hesitant. He was too hesitant because of the feints of Volkanovski, because of the volume of Volkanovski. And I guess Steve Garcia could implement some type of similar game plan than that, but Steve Garcia is nowhere near the level of footwork, of range control, distance management, of eyes in the pocket, of a counter game, of a wrestling game as Alexander Volkanovski, So to employ the Alexander Volkanovski game plan, it sounds good on paper. Maybe he can do it for a couple of minutes, but sooner or later, Diego Lopes will be able to track him down like he wasn't able to track Volk down. And he still tracked Volk down at one point, hurt him, jumped on his back. Another thing we have to speak about is the grappling, right? Diego Lopes is one of the best grapplers in the division. Diego Lopes is absolutely elite off his back, is absolutely elite on top. We saw what he did to Gene Silva. He has been controlled on the ground by Movsar Evloev and Ioannis Brito. You can take him down and stay safe, but it's very hard. He had Movsar Evloev in about 7 submissions. fights. 3 of them were really close. If it wasn't someone called Movsar Evloev, they would have tapped out. So I don't really think Steve Garcia has a wrestling path here either. Is he really going to take Lopes down and stay safe? Lopes is too scrambly. He's too good. He's too flexible. He's too tricky on the ground, in my opinion. So to me, it seems that Steve Garcia has a hard fight in front of him. A very hard fight. And I know Steve will be a popular underdog this week. And one of the reasons is because he's an underdog within winnable, bettable range. And what I mean by that is you're not taking a punt on a plus 400 like a Mauricio Ruffy opponent, or like an Ilia Topuria opponent, or even like a Josh Hokit opponent. Although I do think Derrick Lewis will probably be the second, if not the number one biggest underdog on this card. You know, casual underdog, public underdog, of course, right? Derrick Lewis on the White House. But I do think Steve will be a popular underdog. I understand why. I think those people are missing the point, though. I think that Diego Lopes is the better fighter everywhere. And I think it's going to show itself when they fight. Maybe he's not a better fighter everywhere. If you're going to say who's the better technical striker, I guess it would be Steve Garcia. But I just think when they fight, you know, it's not a technical fight. It's going to be a brawl at some point. They're going to wrestle or grapple at some point if they don't knock each other out. And I think in those realms, like, who's the better finisher on the ground? Who's more damaging on the ground? Who's more likely to take the back? Who's more likely to sink in a choke? Who's more likely to get a knockdown or get a knockout? I think all of those things are heavily in the favor of Diego Lopes. So I will be predicting Diego Lopes to win this fight. And I'll be predicting Diego Lopes to win this fight via knockout in round 2. That is it, boys. We have concluded a very special edition, the UFC Financial Freedom 250 edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Show. I think this is going to be the biggest card of my career. I'm going to put down a lot of money on these fights. I'm very confident in a lot of spots. As I mentioned, if you want all of my bets, you get a massive discount on my bets, one of the biggest I'm ever doing, by using the code FREEDOM when purchasing an elite monthly membership on my website. The link to my website is in the bio. Outside of that, boys, I hope you enjoyed the show. Let's keep on keeping on. It's been a long mother effing ride, but we are here at the White House, and I'll see you in the next show. Peace.